The world that we're in, unfortunately, there are many people out there that exist, and there are a lot of people that want to take advantage of the money that you have earned. And so, in this video, I want to share with you how me and my family have protected our money and all of our investments, and how that's changed and evolved over time to what it is today. And I would say this world that we live in is very, very litigious, meaning that a lot of people want to sue for anything. So let's learn how you can avoid or potentially mitigate somebody actually going after you and trying to take all the hard things that you've worked for in your life. Now, I would say this. Let's think about it this way. If you stored all of your money in one bank and that bank collapses tomorrow, what would happen to your money? Well, it probably would be gone. Now, most of you would say, well, there's FDIC insurance, and so I don't have to worry. But what if FDIC insurance doesn't have enough money to cover everybody's deposits? This is a real thing, and this happened in 2023, where there was a couple of banks in the United States that went under, and many people thought, and still even today, have not yet received all of the money that they had inside of those banks. So you do have to be aware that just because there is insurance doesn't mean the insurance company has enough money to pay everyone else. Now, I learned this very early on in 2008 when I saw people that I love around me losing real estate and losing money from investing in all types of real estate assets at the time. And they all went down by 80% in value, underwater in mortgages, and ultimately people lost a lot of their wealth. Now, today, I guess we start to forget about these things because it's been so long, and this new generation starts to build their own new portfolios. And of course, they forget about the things that happened in the past. But let's go deeper into now how we have not forgotten about those situations, and of course, we've decided to prepare in the event something does ever happen. So we're making sure that we have the protections in place. Now, let's go back to what are assets, which I have a video that describes what assets are, but an asset is anything that produces income for you. A liability is anything that you have to pay for every single month. So we always make sure we protect our asset. Liabilities are a little bit easier for us to keep on the table in the event somebody comes after you, because ultimately liabilities have a form of debt, or they have a requirement to repay some form of obligation. And so it isn't as necessary to protect liabilities as it is to protect assets. A form of asset, which could be considered in some ways a liability, but other ways an asset, is money. Now, cash, liquidity, this is something that you have to protect. We decided many years ago that instead of keeping our money hidden under a mattress or located in one bank, that we need to spread the risk across to many different banks, maybe even combining an onshore asset protection structure and an offshore asset protection structure. Because if you can combine them both, then you'll have the best of both worlds. If something ever happens over here in this world, you still have the benefit of the safety in this world. So it's really important that you see things from a distance and don't get so focused on where you currently are and where you currently live and what you're currently doing. Put magnification on this and say, I want to maybe think about, if something happens where I live today, what is my plan B? Now let's go into what that plan B could look like. To protect the cash, we used an offshore trust. So we opened up offshore trust in Cook Islands, and then you can open up any type of trust in the United States or in any country, but we opened one up outside of the United States, located in the Cook Islands, right off of the coast of Australia, which is where we're at right now. And we decided to open it up in the Cook Islands because the Cook Islands Trust gives us some of the most significant protections possible. One being that somebody would have to fly there in order to file a claim against us. Two, they would have to put up a bond of a bunch of money in order to sue our trust. Three, the Cook Islands doesn't acknowledge foreign judgments, so if someone comes after our trust, they won't be able to get access to our funds. These are really important protections that if we kept our money in a trust onshore, most times a trust onshore can be pierced. And because it can be pierced easily, as viewed as an extension of our personal assets in front of a judge or a jury, we need to make sure that we don't have that liability sitting on the table. So we always diversify some of this money outwards and over to our offshore trust. Now, an offshore trust is a great entity. It's probably the best entity for you to protect your cash offshore. It's very well established businesses that run these offshore trusts. They They have certifications and licenses in order to do it. You can have a certified trustee that manages the trust for you, that you can be in contact with on a daily basis, and they're also licensed, bonded, and they also have typically an attorney's license of some kind. So these people have a lot to lose in the event that they want to be manipulative or take advantage of your trust in any way. So there is a lot of trust behind opening up a trust offshore. The second thing that you can do is, and what we've done is we've opened up an LLC offshore as well. Now, we typically open up our LLCs almost anywhere we really can, but there are many places that you cannot. What we like is the Caribbean. These are places that are tax havens, and they also give you significant anonymity benefits. So if someone was to call and try to find out if this is your LLC or not in the Cayman Islands, they wouldn't be able to find this information out because it's not public record for them to just look up online, and they also can't get that information from the local government. They would have to go through a really difficult process, if at all even possible, for them to get that information. So I would say the best places are Nevis. You can open one up in the Grand Cayman. You can open up a Bahamas LLC, Antigua, Bermuda, right? These are, there's so many. And so you just want to focus on finding one and, sticking to that one. And then, of course, knowing the tax requirements, make sure it's a tax haven location, and then ultimately, go ahead and register that LLC. Now, you can already have a pre-existing LLC from, let's say, the US, and then use the name in that entity located offshore. Or in what we did, we just separated the names, and we had one name for one distinct entity in Nevis, for example, and another in the United States, and they just work with each other. One actually owns the other. So we have our Nevis LLC that owns our onshore Wyoming holding company, and then our Wyoming holding company owns our in-state Florida LLCs. Now, let me break that down a little bit easier for you. We opened up an offshore trust in the Cook Islands. This will protect all of our cash in the event that we have any risk associated, not just from a litigation perspective, so if somebody wants to sue us, but it also gives us protection from any banking crisis or other situations that take place, because we're holding our money in a location that isn't relying on the internal onshore banking system. So that's one thing that's really important. So we have our offshore trust. The next thing is our offshore trust actually owns an offshore LLC holding company that's located in Nevis. Nevis because it gives, again, some of the best protections that you could possibly find. Again, going through a bond and anonymity, and you have the access to your account digitally whenever you so desire. And then there's also the biggest part, they don't acknowledge foreign judgments. So that's a really big thing. Now, our Nevis LLC now owns our Wyoming holding company, which is a Wyoming LLC. And the reason why we opened up a Wyoming LLC is because it has charging order protection, and charging order protection allows you to take much more protections as a managing member of your LLC, and it disallows an external third-party creditor to come in and become a partner or take your place as a managing member on your LLC by a judgment of some kind. So that's really important. These are called COP entities, and you want to make sure you open one of those up, and that's what we did. These are our holding companies. The next is we then have that holding company, which is also anonymous, own our in-state Florida LLCs. These in-state Florida LLCs have varying responsibilities. One of them is our property management company. It manages all of our rents. It has all of our lease agreements. It also manages the relationships with our tenants, and that is the responsibility of that property management company. We don't need a license to do our own property management for our own portfolio, for our own real estate, and that gives us flexibility and ease and convenience. And so we should be 100% taken care of and organized from a bookkeeping perspective right there. We also, since we collect all of our rents and we pay out all of our vendors through this account, in this account, we are also making sure we have an employment agreement in place between our property management in-state LLC and our own personal names, including our children as well. The next is we do have these other in-state Florida LLCs, and most of them either conduct business or individually own one or two 2 pieces of property, and they ultimately separately pay their own mortgages, taxes, and insurance costs. And those funds are sent from the property management company into each one of these individual LLCs for really clean bookkeeping. And it also justifies that these LLCs are separate businesses from each other. They have their own operating structures, they have their own bank accounts, and they manage and maintain their own books. This is really important because if they ever get called into question that they're not real businesses, you can prove that they are. This is how we have done it, and this is why we do it. It's to make sure that if we are ever called into question, that we have justification for the structure that we've created. Now, from a banking perspective, if you're going to bank offshore like we do, you have access to online banking. You got to make sure that the systems are always up. 24-hour banking is really important. You also have to make sure that you can enter the country if you ever need to go and get access to your bank in the event that something happens. These are all really important things. Now, you can get access to banking in Belize, in Dubai, even in the Cook Islands. You can also open up in the Bahamas or in the Grand Caymans. There's really many places that you can do banking. There isn't a limit on where you can or cannot do banking. The only thing is you have to go look at the rules. Some of them have requirements on minimum deposits. Some of them have passport requirements that might not allow you with that specific passport to open up an account. Some of them may, but you may have very limited amount of funds you can either put in or take out. There's many different rules in each one of these countries that you have to abide by. So keep this in mind whenever you're going to go set up your banking. Of course, banking is important, and that's what moves money from one place to another. It's not the LLC registrations, it's not the trust registrations, it's the banking that makes the money move from one place to another. Now, separately, one important thing is you should make sure that you open up an LLC that has a banking system that allows you to do multi-currency status. That's what we did. We decided to open up accounts that allow us to do multi-currency banking. This means that we can transfer our US dollars into this account, and then the account holds these US dollars, but allows us to choose whatever currency we want to transfer and exchange the US dollars into. We can still hold some of the USD inside of the account, but then we can also transfer some of that USD into different currencies. So, for example, we have a USD account in a multi-currency bank right now, and we're allowed to transfer it into Australian dollar or into an Indonesian rupiah or into a Singaporean dollar. And so, given all of these different currency baskets that you have available in this one account that you have online, it gives you so much flexibility, because if there was ever a situation that your onshore banking system, for example, we have accounts in the United States, but if those accounts in the United States were to ever go down because there was a blackout or a disaster or something took place, a lot of the money that's there would get stuck. But our offshore accounts, they have multi-currency status. So since they are offshore and they have multi-currency status, those accounts would still remain active and open, and we would have access still to transact Forex. So we'd be able to migrate money over from, let's say, USD into a separate currency, just so that we can protect the currency if in the event the main currency we're moving out of has some type of dilution effect or crash of some kind. So this is just really important things, and there's so much more to use for protection. And I'll make another video to go deeper on how to add more layers of complexity to your asset protection structure, and also how to use debt to mitigate some lawsuits in the event someone comes after you personally or even after some of your properties. These are really important things that the rich are using in order to justify not having to pay someone that's going after them for a frivolous lawsuit of any kind that they know is just a money grab. There's a lot of money grabs in the world, so you have to be aware how to protect yourself, because the average millionaire, and I'm sure you want to be a millionaire as you grow your portfolio and you become financially stable and successful, the average millionaire gets sued in their lifetime more than 7 times, which means there's 7 ways that you are going to have to face someone that's going to come after you. And those 7, you got to start figuring out with an asset protection strategy how to avoid, mitigate, or completely eliminate the ability for them to take advantage of you in each of those 7 or more ways. So I'll add some more of these videos so you can learn more. And if you want to learn on the next video that I update about asset protection, go ahead and subscribe, share this video with a friend, or if you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I'm happy to share some information that I can add to help you achieve your goals. All right, I'll see you soon. Cheers.